Hi, what's up, guys? So, what I'm going to talk about today is not as cool or funny or nice in any way, but I feel like I have been postponing this long enough, and recently I was just reminded of how much videos like this helped me when I was in need. So I realized that if this video and the ones that will follow this one can help at least one person to feel better about themselves or to understand what's going on a little bit better, then it's certainly worth it. I have already mentioned that I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder this year. And I had no idea, like before I got this diagnosis, I had no idea what it is whatsoever. A personality disorder means that basically when you were growing and when you were developing, your brain didn't develop as it was supposed to be. It doesn't mean that you are stupid or it doesn't affect like your IQ. It doesn't have to do anything with it. There are a lot of brightest people with mental illnesses, but it just means that your emotional regulation might be different from what is considered the norm. And mind that the norm doesn't actually ever exist, so it is kind of a statistical thing. So if you take one person, no one is 100% mentally healthy because we are all different, and the norm is more or less the average from everyone. So if everybody would be normal, the world just wouldn't go around, because we need all sorts of different people for our society to function. So there are three clusters. Cluster A, or odd personality disorders, include paranoid, schizoid, and schizotypal personality disorders. I don't actually know much about them, but you can always Google them and just see for yourself. Then there is cluster B, which is dramatic personality disorders. And I know that people that have disorders of this cluster are usually very emotional, and they're very involved in social life, and they are kind of attractive, and they are considered like lively and sexy by the society. And now we have a lot of cultures that romanticize personality disorders and just mental health issues, and I think that it's really, really bad, because there is nothing really sexy or nice about having a mental health issue. So the cluster B includes antisocial, borderline, narcissistic, and histrionic personality disorder. The cluster C is anxious personality disorder, so it's avoidant, dependent, and obsessive compulsive disorder. And then there are not specified disorders such as depressive, passive-aggressive, sadistic, self-defeating, and psychopathic. I will focus on the borderline personality disorder, and in fact, a lot of people are affected by it. 2 to 6% people in the world have it, and most of the people who get diagnosed are inpatients in mental hospitals, and usually they get into hospital for some other kind of thing. So maybe it can be alcohol abuse, it can be self-harm, it can be suicide attempts. So actually 10% of people who have a borderline personality disorder commit suicide, and I think that it's a very alarming rate. Also, there are more girls who get diagnosed with this disorder, and it's not really clear if it is so because girls are just more prone to it, or if it's because of the stigma in mental health society or the doctors who give you the diagnosis, because it's just the same symptoms that a person can display can be attributed to a narcissistic personality disorder if it's presented in a man, or to borderline if it's in a... It can be caused. It's actually not studied enough to be sure about what the cause of the disorder is, but it is a mix of genetic, environmental, and social factors. I know that there are less people who just had a genetic borderline personality disorder, and it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to have relative with borderline specifically, but a person who has like a history of relatives with depression and some other kinds of things, they are more likely to get a borderline personality disorder. And if your parents have borderline, then you are more likely to have borderline. But it is not actually clear if it is due to the genetic factors or just due to a rough childhood of the people who have parents suffering from borderline. So most of the people who struggle with borderline personality disorder had some sort of abuse in their childhood. It doesn't make these people bad, and just trust me, like, they are really, really hurting from the inside. It's no fun to have any sort of mental condition, and I don't want to say that one is worse or better than the others, but to be diagnosed, you have to present 5 symptoms out of 9. The first one is disturbed sense of identity. So it is when you don't really know who you are. The second thing is desperate avoidance of real or imagined abandonment. And this, I think that this actually comes from like a troubled childhood, because you will go to great lengths in order to make other people stay with you, because if someone leaves, then it's kind of proof of that you are not worthy of anyone's attention or leaving or whatever. And remember that the brain exaggerates even the smallest thing. So even if someone is not answering their phone, or if someone stood you up with like a date or whatever, like, it can seem like it's the end of the life. And the next thing is splitting. So it's black and white thinking otherwise. And it is like a childish thing in a way. So you don't understand that a person cannot be like all good or all bad, or the situation cannot be all good or all bad. And I know that, I mean, a lot of people suffer with it, even the normal, like, healthy people without any diagnosis. We struggle with separating deeds from people. So a person can be a very good person, but they can do something bad. It doesn't make them bad people. But in borderline, there's like a series of thinking that a person is like the most perfect person ever. And it's called idealization. And then there comes evaluation. So if the person does something even remotely unperfect, you just think, oh my god, how can I be so stupid and not see it? They are just shit. So they can go from like the meaning of your life to like a shit on your shoe in a minute. And it can be very discouraging for people around you, because one moment you love them, one moment you hate them, and they are just lost. Like, what is happening? I didn't even do anything. And like, number 4 is impulsive, dangerous, and self-damaging behavior, like reckless driving, having like unprotected sex with strangers, or using drugs, or like drinking too much. I think it is kind of an effort to fill the void, like the emptiness that you feel inside, because you don't really know who you are. You feel constantly drained and empty, and like you just want to feel something. And either you feel things too strongly, like with abandonment, or like with splitting that I just explained, or you don't feel anything. And when you don't feel anything, you want to go to very, very, very big lengths in order to feel some excitement. And this dangerous behavior can give you like the adrenaline that is addictive in a way. It is like an addiction. So number 5 is unstable and chaotic interpersonal relationships. And this, of course, is a result of the things that are mentioned above. So you cannot kind of preserve a constant image of a person in your head. So they go from very good to very bad in seconds. Well, it is not only romantic relationships, it goes together with like family and friendships and just like any relationships. And those people usually are very chaotic with their like work, so they cannot like keep a job for longer than like a year or like half a year. So number 6 is very rapid and random mood swings. They are varied and they seem completely unexplainable to other people. So yeah, as I said, you can go from like laughing to crying, from loving someone to hating them in a matter of seconds. And the emotions that you feel, they physically affect your body. Like, if you love someone, you love them to the point when it hurts you. If you hate someone, then you hate them to the point when it hurts you. So basically you are in constant pain. And it is not really funny. It's nothing funny, may I tell you. And of course, like, I think 90% of people with borderline suffer with depression, because it's just impossible to stay like happy when you have such intense emotions all the time, and you cannot do anything to stop them. And even when you like rationally know that you shouldn't react this way, or when you totally understand that like it's not normal, like it's not normal to react this way, you cannot do anything about it. It's just like the way you feel, and you cannot change it, even if you know that it's not right. This I read somewhere that a person with borderline personality disorder was compared to a 3rd-degree burn victim, with all their skin is a giant burn. And it is very accurate. It's like even a single touch, like another person wouldn't even notice. But for people with borderline, it's as though you like stab them with a knife. They are very sensitive to everything. Next one, number 7, is constant feeling of emptiness, sadness, and worthlessness. So I spent my entire life thinking that I do not belong anywhere, that I will never belong anywhere, that I will never get married, that I am unlovable, that I am very ugly, that I need to die basically, because there is like no point, because nobody, like, I knew that my parents love me, and I love them a lot, like, back. But I thought that, okay, they are my parents. They're supposed to love me. Like, I felt like there was, like, a hole in my chest. And I can physically, like, tell where the borders of this hole were. And I still do feel it sometimes, not all the time, but if I'm upset or if I'm, like, very emotional at the moment, I can still feel it, but it goes away. So living with it constantly is hell. Like, trust me, you have a constant pain somewhere in your body, and you feel like literally someone just like ripped parts of you, like parts of your lungs or ribs, or like even sometimes it would grow and like shrink, so it would change sizes, and sometimes it was as big as like from my chin down to my loin. It's very hard to explain, but just trust me that the sensation is not fun at all. Number 8 is anger issues. So it is almost inability to control your anger, and I actually didn't have this. So I was very, very, like, on the opposite. I was very, like, kind, and I was trying not to hurt anyone by, like, every means possible. So I don't know what that is like, but I know that people, like, can really rage, and they can throw tantrums, and they can, like, break dishes and just be very unstable in their, like, anger management. But as I said, like, I never had this problem, so I cannot actually elaborate on this topic any longer. So let's move to the last one, and it's number 9, and it's stress-related paranoia, or loss of contact with reality. I consider myself being, like, a smart person, but sometimes I got these ideas that I believed were, like, 100% true, and it was when I had, like, very, very strong emotions. And I would convince myself that, like, what I think is actually the reality, but it was very far from reality. I cannot think of an example now, but it was usually something, like, not very good. I would detach from reality, so it's either a feeling of watching yourself from the side, and for me it's usually like a corner of the room. So it is a result of a traumatic experience, actually, as I heard. But I think that it can also be like you're watching a movie, or you feel like you're in a computer game, and I think that the mechanism of hormones and chemicals in our brain that happens when you have this kind of an episode, they are pretty similar to what you feel when you are like on mushrooms. So what I described is like the things that actually don't allow you to live like a full and happy life, but there are good things too. So you feel not only sadness and anger and everything this intensely, you also feel glad to the maximum, and you feel joy and love and like everything. If you're curious about something, like it's your life mission to learn about it. And this is why people with borderline personality disorder are like very interesting usually, because they have a lot of hobbies and they don't really know what they want from life, so they try a lot of different things. They have very different relationships with all sorts of people, and usually since they are very afraid of being abandoned and of being rejected, they are usually good friends, and they would even like bend over backwards in order to please somebody. And I'm not saying that it's good. You should never do that. You should always put yourself first. You only have to check 5 symptoms out of this 9 that I listed in order to be diagnosed. And this means that there are over 140, I guess, types of people with borderline personality disorder. So you can guess that no person with borderline is similar to any other one. And I was actually told by a lot of people who found out that I do have it, that like, you are the opposite. Like, I know someone with borderline personality disorder, and you are a complete opposite of this person, because you're like so lovely and calm, and you don't seem to be angry like at all ever, and you control yourself very well. But it's just like, it's my case, so I can speak for this. So never put people in a box, even if society puts them in a box of a mental health issue. And therapists either love these people, because if you know how to treat them, they can be the loveliest ones, and they can be super smart and funny and just have a very, very nice sense of humor. But at the same time, they can be extremely hard in therapy, because they will lie, they will hide things from you, and they will like not cooperate, and then you think that they are doing well, and then they will just go back to their old behaviors. And a lot of therapists actually refuse to work with people who have borderline, and I think that it's very sad then. Okay, I should stop rambling now and wrap this video here. So thank you very, very much for watching, as always, and if you have any questions or suggestions or whatever, you are very, very welcome to talk to me, because I love meeting new people. And yeah, have a great day, and